We got a 2007 Hyundai Tucson here with the V6 2.7. This vehicle is at approximately 50,000 miles, 50,403. Now we're going to be doing the water pump and timing belt on this vehicle. We're going to be doing it a little bit early. I'm going to be explaining that as we go. We're going to also be changing the radiator on this car. Now, you would think that it wouldn't need very much at all except for a few services and some maintenance, which typically is true. On this vehicle, however, this vehicle is in remarkably good condition. Doesn't look abused in any way, shape, or form. But unfortunately, it does have some issues. The radiator has a crack in it, which I'm going to show you that here in just a little bit. We're going to be changing the radiator out by necessity, and we're a short distance away from the manufacturer's recommended timing belt replacement mileage. But we're going to go ahead and replace the timing belt a little bit early. If you've seen some of our other videos, you know why we push for that. I think 5,000 or 10,000 miles preemptive on the timing belt is perfect. I do it on my own vehicles as well. Now, because of the fact that we're going to be changing the radiator on this and draining the cooling system and everything else to do that, we're going to be doing a couple of the steps that we would have to do the timing belt. So we offered the customer the discount, save them approximately $100. We see a lot of this all the time. We see cars that come in where people have purchased them and they bring them in after the fact, and we see stuff like this. Now once we take this engine cover off here, which is just a couple bolts, you're going to see that power steering hose hidden up underneath here, and it's just soaked in oil. We caught that when we took a look at the hose all the way in the back there and noticed that it was wet and there's a little bit of oil underneath the car. Not enough to be dripping on the floor and causing puddles, and in other words, not enough to be creating warning signs by creating puddles on the floor. So now I've got a better angle of the radiator here. I want to show you that radiator tank where it's leaking, and you'll notice a trail going down the radiator. See if I can light that up for you. And you see that trail going right down the radiator all the way down and dripping off. Now what that is residue from evaporated coolant. That is the lime deposits or the mineral deposits, whatever they may be, that are left behind when the moisture evaporates out of the antifreeze, and it leaves that stuff behind. Not all types of antifreeze leave that kind of trail like that. The older antifreeze typically just leaves a little leave a little green streak or something. The newer antifreezes kind of leave this white, almost sometimes mossy looking stuff that'll grow around hose connections and stuff like that, and cracks anywhere there's a leak in the cooling system. So now we've got the engine cover off to expose the engine itself, and you'll see here the power steering line I told you about that was leaking, that was hidden underneath the engine cover. There's the power steering pump, and you'll see the line coming off right here, going up and back. That is the power steering line, and you'll notice, let me get some light in there, it is soaked in oil all the way down, and then it drips onto the cross member, and it actually ends up running all the way down and dripping off right underneath there. So that is the power steering hose right there. That's the leaking power steering hose that we caught. Now we're ready to take the engine apart. We've got the engine cover off. Just showed you the leaking power steering line there. I want to show you the new line, the replacement that we got from Hyundai, which is right here. Complete assembly all the way down to the rack and pinion. So this is really the way to go here with a complete hose assembly, brand new from Hyundai. We've also got our timing belt idler pulley, tensioner pulley, hydraulics tensioner assembly, good quality Japanese made water pump. Any Japanese car, I highly recommend you avoid China made water pumps like the plague. They are junk. Here's our radiator we're going to be installing. Good quality Japanese radiator, new lines on it, high quality unit here, no China junk. So this spot here is where the other radiator, the old one, is cracked. You see that one there is fine, of course, it's brand new. So we're going to be putting this in, the power steering line, the water pump, the pulleys, and all the stuff we just showed you. And we will be back as soon as the engine is disassembled to show you what it looks like inside. So the old parts have been removed. The old timing belt, water pump, tensioner, and idler pulley. We've replaced that with the new components. There's our new tensioner, new idler, new hydraulic tensioner, new water pump. And now on this vehicle, we did do the timing belt early, as we always recommend. If it says 60, do it around 50. If it says manufacturer calls for 90,000 miles, do it around 70 or 80. If they call for 105,000 miles, they want your engine to blow up just outside of warranty and fill their service departments. We always recommend doing it early, and I'll show you why here on this vehicle too. First of all, the hydraulic tensioner assembly here, hopefully you can see that up inside there. That little rubber seal around the shaft there is all moist with oil and it's leaking. What that indicates is that the nitrogen pressure inside this hydraulic tensioner is seeping out, along with a good amount of the oil that's inside there as well. And what that means is this thing's essentially going flat. When these go flat, when they lose all their pressure, they lose all their oil, you lose your tension on your timing belt, and basically if it goes loose, then it can slip a tooth, destroy your valves, and you probably know what happens from there. Now this is a 50,000 mile vehicle. We've got one indication here that we need to do this early. Also, if you look at the water pump here, I'm trying to get you that shot. There's the weep hole on the back of the water pump, and if you can see that up inside there, green crusty residue, that means the water pump was just starting to leak. So again, 50,000 miles, technically not due yet, but here's an indication that it should be done sooner. Leaking water pump. Timing belt was not terrible. Timing belt itself probably would have gone 60,000 miles without any problems, but I am seeing some cracking. When you bend it like this, you'll see some separation of the lugs on the belt, which is an indication this belt is in its final stages of wear. So technically the belt would have been okay, but if the tensioner released, the belt would have gone loose and slipped teeth. If the water pump seized up or started leaking bad, that could eventually do the same thing. So we've got the timing belt done, fan belt on, power steering hose in, new radiator installed, and we've done a transmission flush and a differential fluid change. Now we've got the engine cover back on, and there's nothing else to do except take it on a test drive. See you next time.